السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us tawfiq to come to His house. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our coming for Salatul Jum'ah in the early hours, waiting for Salah, getting engaged in dua, dhikr, tilawah, remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any and all forms. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it all from all of us. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a religion which, to explain it in simple words, I'm going to give an example that it has two pans. Like a scale, back home we have a tarazu on the right, a scale on the right, a pan on the right and a pan on the left. One of the pan of our sharia holds the weight of our ibadat, salah, siyam, hajj, zakah and all forms of ibadat. The second pan of the scale of our sharia holds our muamlat with everyone, our muamla with ourselves, our muamla with our immediate, the people who are associated with us, our muamla with general public, our muamla with neighbors, Muslims or non-Muslims. It may be that we think that the scale with the pan with the ibadat is more worthy in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it is not true. Because ibadat have to do with the Creator, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I don't fulfill the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that pertains to Him, that pertains to His fulfilling His rights, it's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whether He forgives it, whether He holds me accountable for that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all from violating the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when it comes to the rights of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we don't have any relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on the, for the word of understanding, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me the tawfiq to say the right way, then Allah subhanahu, the matter is between us and the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah leaves us alone on the day of judgment that you deal with these matter among the two of you. And of course, I cannot pay back the money that I ever took. I want to take step by step and get to a very important point that we are noticing here, and the questions are coming, and I thought it will be a good idea to talk about it in one of these Jummah Khatiras. So that was the muqaddamah of what I want to say. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this sharia, and take the sharia as a tarazu, as a mizan, with the pan on the right and a pan on the left. One pan holds the ibadat and the other pan holds the weight of our muamlat. Now everything that we do in our life, as soon as we get engaged into that circumstances, certain rights, certain responsibilities befall on us. We come inside the masjid, right? We see some garbage sitting inside the masjid. A responsibility on everyone comes that this is garbage. A lot of people will be coming here. I should just pick it up and throw it in the garbage can. If we see shoes lying around and we know that it is a trip hazard, maybe it will be a good idea to just, if nobody wants to touch the shoes of someone else, maybe pushing it aside with our feet. There's nothing wrong with that. Done with a good intention to save, to protect someone from being harmed from this, there's ajr in it. We sit inside the masjid, there are certain rights we have, but there are certain responsibilities we have as well. If somebody wants to, this is house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, made for remembrance of Allah. If somebody wants to start reading tilawat of Quran out loud and he wants to, just enjoy his tilawah, it's his right. But there are certain responsibilities that he has also, that at this time, it is not suitable for him to recite tilawah, to do the tilawah of Quran out loud, because other people, the mass majority of people are not gathering here to listen to the tilawah. They are gathering here to perform Jummah, to maybe listen to the khatira and the khutbah. We make a house, there are certain rights we have. The city of Buffalo gives us certain rights, but at the same time, city of Buffalo makes us responsible for certain responsibilities as well. And I don't want to take too much time on that. We understand, I hope everybody understands the concept that I'm trying to make and bring in our heart, in our minds, that as soon as we engage in anything, there are certain rights that we get, but at the same time, certain responsibilities also come on us. It is our house. I have a right to enter my house anytime I want, but Sharia gives me the responsibility of saying Salaamu Alaikum wa Rahmatullah whenever we enter our house, whether it's empty. There's nobody in there. Right? This is the responsibility that Sharia has imposed on us, that when you enter your house, your own house, even if there is nobody there, say Assalamu Alaikum wa Rahmatullah. People get sick. Sick people have all the rights, right? But they also have certain responsibilities as well. If there is a sickness that is going to harm others, that marid will be told to stay home. Even on Friday, stay home and pray your Zuhr. Right? This is the responsibility of the sick person that Sharia has imposed on him. But he has all other rights. The community, first his family members need to take care of him. The community has to visit him, or at least inquire about him. The community should make dua for him and find out if he needs any help. Right? These are all the responsibilities that we are getting for the sick person. The sick person has all the rights, but he also has certain responsibilities. There are people who are dying. The family of the person who has left this world have all the rights. At that point, certain responsibilities come on the community members. We want to find out if they need any help, and I've been raising quite a few times about our responsibilities when there is a death in the community, when there is a death in the household. We know that nobody wants to do anything because of the grief, because of the pain, because of the taklif that they are going through. The family who has lost someone, they are in a trauma, and they don't even feel like doing anything. Yet their garbage has to be taken out. Right? The garbage has to be taken out. They're not going to take out their garbage. Their taxes and their utility bills have to be paid. Maybe one of us can approach the family member and say that, until you guys are in the grief, we will take care of all of your, chores. Small little things. Their groceries have to be done. Their children have to be picked up to and from school. These are all our responsibilities. There are certain responsibilities coming on that household as well. Can anyone mention one? There is a death in the family. The family has all the rights. The responsibilities are coming on the community members. I'm saying there are certain responsibilities coming on the family members as well. What is the first responsibility? The very first responsibility that comes on the family members, if they are around, is to haste in the burial of the deceased. Yes? Are we all on the same page? There is no reason for the family members to delay the burial. The parents are coming from there, the brother is coming from there, please wait. Inshallah, you have all the rights to ask for this and we will accommodate that. But that's not the right way. We are delaying, as a family member, we are delaying certain responsibilities on us regarding that deceased person. Delaying the tadfeen of a deceased person. Now I'm just going to change the subject. In fact, the subject will be the same. I'm going to change the way I want to address that subject. There is another responsibility that comes on the family members once they are done with the burial. Anyone knows what that responsibility may be? You know, our mind will probably go towards holding up Quran Sharif, Khatam Quran at our house, right? Making sure that more and more brothers and sisters and family members and the community members are able to do Isal Sawab. Good deeds with the intention of doing Isal Sawab for the deceased. Right. As soon as I will ask the question, what's the first responsibility that will come upon you regarding the deceased family member that you've just lost? You know, a little bit of thinking and then you will say, yeah, you know, Isal Sawab maybe, inshallah. But more important than that, something else is coming. And that something else is, this is my assumption and I could be wrong, I don't think our mind go over there. And that something else is the distribution of the wealth of the deceased. A lot of times, seriously, ask yourself, when was the last time you had attended a funeral within your family or, you know, circle of your family, and after the burial was done, there are elders of the family members sitting and thinking, when is a good time to sit down and start taking inventory of the malkiyat of the assets of the dead person? Anyone? Including myself. Anyone? I don't know. Maybe brothers over here, they are. But in my context, I don't know any family, close or little distant, that after the burial was done tonight, tomorrow, day after, they sat down and we heard that, you know, the family elders are sitting together and taking an inventory of all the assets so they can haste in distributing it. Why? Because at that time we forget that the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is distribute it and avoid fitna. At that time the best of our manners come in play and we say, no, this is not a good subject to be talking about right now. Somebody will be heard saying, you know, the dirt of the grave has not yet dried and you're talking about distributing the wealth of your dad. So this is not a good subject. We'll talk about it later. When? Nobody knows. Maybe a year later, maybe 5 years later, maybe 10 years later, somebody wants to get married. And then he brings his wife and after that children are happening, and now hold up. The elder, the oldest brother or sister or anyone, uncle, it could be anyone, says, hold up. Your family is getting bigger and you need to move out of the house. What is the person going to say? This is my house as much as it is your house. I'm giving you realities. This is what happens. I don't need to go into narrating everything that takes place. The next statement will be, well, I have spent, while you were studying, I have spent this much money on this house. Subhanallah. Was it a favor upon me? Did you ask me? Did you give me anything that was left by our father or our mother or our, you know, our family members or our maybe grandfather? To be very honest with you, a lot of people don't even know what are their rights in the inheritance. As brothers and sisters of the deceased and the elders of the family, we think that when my family member, my brother, or my father, or my mother, or anyone, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect them all, goes because I'm the oldest of the family, I have all the rights to preserve it. And because I am the most trustworthy person, and I don't mess around with people's money, so it's okay. If you want it, no. Right now you need to pay attention on your college studies. We'll talk about that later. Isn't this what happens? What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying very clearly? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la ta'kulu amwalakum baynakum bil batil. Amwalakum baynakum. This is your money, the money that belongs to me and you. Don't eat it with batil, in corrupted ways. Don't eat that money that is part of, it's a ijtima'i money, it's a collective money. I don't have all the rights on it, neither you have all the rights on it. Very clearly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us, don't eat the collective money by way of corruption. I am not doing any corruption when I am telling you pay attention on your college studies right now. Right now you are young, you don't know. Inshallah, when you grow up, we'll talk about that later. When you grow up, all that money is gone. I spent so much money on this house, and I bought you a car, and I got you married, and I gave your wife this much. Subhanallah. And now what happens? The questions come to the Mufti Sahibs. What is Mufti Sahib going to do right now? What are we going to do right now? Nothing. If you violated your own responsibility at the time of death, it's a very important subject, brothers. We have buried so many people. In English we say, I can count on my hand how many times this event take place. I can't even say that. In English, when we have to say that the number is so little that I can count it on my one hand. People are buried there. I cannot even count on one hand how many people have come and asked me, Shaykh, how do we distribute the assets of our mother or father or brother or sister? Shaykh, my son or my daughter died. She was the owner of this much gold or this much silver. No concern. Nothing. Whether your child is a day old, if he owns anything, parents are becoming warith. The brothers and sisters of that baby child is also becoming warith. The wife of that man who passes away also becoming warith. But she is not the only one who becomes warith of the entire wealth, as the law of the land requires. The parents also become warith. The children also become warith. The brothers and sisters of anyone, whether a person dying is a male or a female, they also become waris in certain conditions. Within certain conditions, uncles also become waris. Cousins also become waris. Do we know all about it? No, we don't. Is that an excuse on the day of judgment for violating this responsibility? Remember, we talked about as soon as we get engaged into any circumstances, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us rights, but at the same time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us responsibilities as well. We have rights to receive all the sympathies at the time of a death in our family. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all and our family members. But there are certain responsibilities that kick on us. And the very first one of those responsibility is, and sad to say, we find people lacking haste in that responsibility as well. The very first responsibility that befalls on that family who has lost a family member is to haste in burying it. Tadfeen, it needs to be done. The second responsibility that comes on that family member, with all of those rights that they receive from the community, the responsibility that comes is to manage the money. Did he perform any wasiyat? Did he make any wasiyat? Did he have any debts? What about credit card debts? What about phone bills? What about utilities? What about rent? Whose responsibility is that? Not the dead person. The waratha, the inheritors. After the bills have been paid off, the loans are paid off, the first thing, the money, and I will wrap it up inshallah quickly, the very first responsibility that comes on the family members is to use the money of the deceased on the funeral expenses of the deceased. And if at that time, and learn it, if at that time, if a family member wants to take on the charge for the funeral bills, either he needs to make it clear that I'm paying it, but somebody needs to pay it back to me from the assets of the deceased. If he does not make that announcement, brothers and sisters, do not ask for this money. Do not ask for this money. You did it for your own self. Either make the announcement right there that I'm paying the funeral bill, I want it back whenever we sit down to distribute the wealth of the deceased person, I want this money back. If he does not make this announcement, he has no right in asking for that money back from anybody. This is the very first responsibility that comes on that family member. The second responsibility that comes on the money, on the family members regarding money, is to pay off his debts. The third responsibility that comes to find out if he has any wasiyah, which is only valid in 1/3 of the leftover. After paying the expenses of the funeral, after paying the bills, the debts, whatever is left, only 1/3 will be distributed according to the wasiyah, and that wasiyah cannot be towards those people who are becoming warith. It cannot be towards any najaiz, illegal, illegitimate purpose. After that, whatever money is left over, that needs to be distributed according to the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes it. And how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes it? Very clearly. She gets that much in fractions, he gets that much in fractions. If somebody wants to go over it, how clear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in that regard, and the clarity of it, the transparency of the shares of the family members, tells us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to take it so clear. Imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, listen, you have to distribute the money of your family member. And we say, Ya Allah, I don't know. Allah will tell us, it's written in the Quran. Your daughter gets this much, your mother gets this much, your father gets this much. You did not even have to go to a Maulvi Sahib. You could have just opened the Quran and find out yourself. What answer we will have? I'm going to end right here. The whole purpose of the khatira was to bring in our attention one of the very important responsibilities as a family member of the household where a person has died. After the funeral, the first responsibility that comes on us is to manage the money, the assets of the family member. And everything, fuqaha have written that even if he leaves a needle that was left in his pocket, that needle is also becoming part of the asset that must be distributed. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.